Welcome back to the Girl About the Globe podcast. I can't believe it's series 9. I've had a long break for the beginning of 2023. So for this particular episode, I'm going to be talking about the destinations that I believe are good for solo female travellers for 2023. If you're looking for somewhere to go this year, even though it's already March, this year is flying past, and you're unsure where to go, then this episode is for you. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you as a solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact.
There are so many destinations out there that are really good for solo female travellers that there are going to be a few countries on the list that you probably recognise from the previous years, especially countries in Europe. Europe is extremely safe for women to travel alone. So there are a few repeat destinations that I'm going to be inspiring you to travel to. But first of all, the first one that I'm going to start with is Australia. And Australia is finally back on the list. After COVID and being closed down, people are now travelling back to Australia. This was the first country that I backpacked alone and I absolutely loved it. I'm so glad that it's finally making a comeback because travelling alone in this country is just so friendly and so easy. It's a fantastic country if you love nature. It has the Aborigine culture, which is found in the Red Centre. You've got the world famous landmarks such as the Sydney Opera House and epic train journeys that I've personally taken myself through the Red Centre. The East Coast is the place to meet others and party along the coast if you're looking to be a bit social. And then you've also got the islands, Tasmania, which is amazing, and that has its own destination guide on the blog, Watnest Island, and many more. With great tourism infrastructure, Australia is my perfect choice for solo female travellers. From Australia to Europe, second destination is Austria. Austria is just stunning. It has amazing architecture. And it's got a really great rail network, making it easy to get around. You can do your own walking tours in cities such as Vienna or Salzburg. You can pick up maps in hostels if you stay in hostels, and you can just walk around the cities, or you could join walking tours to meet others. Austria is also home of Sound of Music, if you've ever seen that movie, and you can do a tour there to see the hills that are alive with the sound of music. Vienna is the capital of Austria and it's one of my favourite cities. Vienna has modern architecture, old taverns and coffee houses. I absolutely love coffee and they do amazing coffee there, as well as tons of galleries and museums to look around. Salzburg has actually been nicknamed the Rome of the North because of its churches and cathedrals. If you do go to Austria, you can also visit a monastery where the monks brew their own beer. And there's also Innsbruck, which is a mecca for adventure seekers. So you can practically do any outdoor activity that you ever want to do there. If you do visit in the winter, Austria has got great ski resorts. I did actually go to a ski resort in the summer and it had really great hiking, so it is a year-round destination. Number 3 is Argentina. If you want to venture a bit further and you've ever wanted to dance the tango or eat an Argentine steak, then head to Argentina. The capital, Buenos Aires, is a really vibrant city and it's full of hidden gems. It's quite a big city, actually. I was quite surprised when I went there. There's also Cordoba and the wine region of Mendoza, not to mention the stunning Patagonia that I've yet to see, but it's an area full of glaciers, ice fields and mountain peaks. It just looks absolutely stunning. But if you do go to Patagonia, make sure that you do have winter clothes if you are going to be there during the winter season. Argentina, I'd say it can be described as electric, passionate and stunning. So whether you want to party hard in Buenos Aires, people don't go clubbing until about midnight there, or you just want to fall in love with the scenery, then Argentina is amazing. It's a bit like Europe. Buenos Aires, I would say, looks a little bit like a city in Europe, but it's obviously in South America. Number 4 is Bali. Bali is always a popular choice with solos. I need to go back to Bali because I have not been there for several years and I imagine it's really changed since then. I do know people that have come back recently and it's turned itself into a digital nomad yoga wellness island, basically. So if you are looking to work online and stay somewhere that's very affordable, or you're into yoga or spirituality, then Bali is definitely a great place to go as a solo female traveller. You can indulge in the traditional Balinese massages, there's hot springs, there's adventure, so you can go hiking. You can hike Mount Batur at sunrise, which I did, and it was absolutely amazing. You can go river rafting, you can go surfing at Kuta Beach. If you stay in Ubud is just full of lush nature, and you can also see the monkeys at the monkey forest there. You can just hire a bike and do bike tours, and also because it is Balinese, it has amazing World Heritage sites. If you do go there, you can also visit the Komodo Islands, which are nearby, to see the largest living lizards in the world. Number 5, Colombia. I'm obviously biased with this country. If you know me, you know that I did live there for a year and a half. Apparently, since the pandemic, it has got a little bit more dangerous, so you do really need to be careful of pickpockets and your valuables there. It was still a bit dodgy when I actually lived there in 2014, but just with anywhere, you just need to be very vigilant of your belongings. Bogota, which is the cosmopolitan capital, is actually known for its street art, and you can do street art tours there. You can also do cycling tours. I went and learned about the street art in Bogota. There's also La Candelaria, which is a really funky area of Bogota that you might want to stay if you go there. There's definitely more to this country, though, than the capital city. Each place that you go in Colombia is just very different from the next. So you've got Cartagena, which is on the Caribbean coast, and you have the old, colourful streets of Cartagena. You can go diving off the Caribbean coast as well. There's islands. You can see the tall wax palms in the coffee region. I stayed there for a week and it was so peaceful and lovely. Or you can just fall in love with the mountain valley city that I lived in called Medellin. And there's even a semi-desert in Colombia. Colombia is a really great place if you want culture, if you like dancing, and if you love coffee. Number 6 is Croatia. Croatia, to me, seems to be really growing in popularity. Dubrovnik has always been really popular anyway, and it's always been very overcrowded with cruise tourism. But it seems as though more people are flocking to different destinations in Croatia, such as Split, for example. Obviously, if you do go, you have to go to Dubrovnik, especially if you're a Game of Thrones fans, because some of the scenes from Game of Thrones were filmed there. It's a really lovely country with an amazing coastline. It has beautiful old towns. You also have the Plitvice Lake, which are just the greenest lakes I've ever seen. It's spectacular. And you've got the Dalmatian coast, and I did do a sailing trip for a week around the Dalmatian coast. Definitely recommend going on a sailing trip in Croatia. You can actually do that from Split as well. They do many sailing tours that go from there. If you are looking for a sailing tour, have a look on the Solo Female Friendly Tour Companies article on the blog, because they've covered all of the tour companies there. Number 7, even though I would definitely put this higher, because Dubai is officially the number 1 destination in the world. And I'm so proud to say that because I've chosen to live here. And I am obviously biased, but Dubai is amazing. Number 1, because it's probably the safest country I've ever been to for solo female travellers. I know a lot of women might be put off for going to the Middle East. I love the Middle East. I find it very mystical. And I'm not here to persuade you to go to the Middle East if you don't feel comfortable, but Dubai does not really feel like it's the Middle East. It's very liberal. People do wear what they want here to a certain point. It's still a predominantly Muslim country, and I still think you should be respectful and, not show too much flash. But that's just my own personal opinion. There is just so much to Dubai. I think people see Dubai as this superficial city that has that reputation from Instagram influencers, but it's not like that at all. Obviously, there are areas of it and there are parts of it that are superficial, but Dubai kind of gives you whatever you want. You can have so many different experiences there. It does have a culture. It has the Emirati culture, and you can watch Emirati shows, listen to Emirati music, see the traditional dancing. You can venture outside of the city to the desert for a true Bedouin experience and see fire shows, ride a camel, go sandboarding or cruising across sand dunes. Or you can just take a tour to Abu Dhabi, which is about an hour away, and it's the neighbouring emirate, and they've actually got their own Louvre, so it kind of rivals the one in Paris, and they've also got a stunning mosque. Dubai does have massive skyscrapers. It has the tallest building in the world. It's broken so many Guinness Book of World Records for tallest things. It's got the world's tallest hotel as well, but there is culture here, and you can basically have any experience that you want to have in Dubai. Number 8 is Estonia, going from one massive city with skyscrapers to a very smaller one. Estonia is really pretty. I visited Estonia a few years ago. It was so cheap when I visited as well. It's one of the Baltic states, and it's actually growing in popularity as one of the new hotspots for European breaks. When I went, there were kind of more guys travelling alone, but I imagine that's changed now. I did find it very safe. It was good for those on a budget, and it's also popular if you're travelling through the Baltics. You could also see Lithuania and Latvia at the same time as well, because the capital cities are only about 4 hours on a coach ride from each other. In Estonia, it's got a really beautiful old town. It's like something out of a fairy tale. And you can also find lots of activities here. So you can stay overnight in a former Soviet prison, if that's your thing. You can go bobsledding or husky dog sledding, obviously in the winter. It's also got a really good nightlife, so it makes it very easy to meet others there. Plus, there are so many hostels to choose from, and they're really good hostels, and they've got a friendly social vibe. Number 9 is Georgia. I love visiting emerging destinations. Georgia was definitely one of these for me. It may not have been on your radar before, but again, it's definitely growing in popularity. I found it very easy to travel there, even though I didn't speak Russian. And there are several day trips you can do if you just want to base yourself in the capital, which is Tbilisi. I also visited Georgia when I was doing a 3-country trip. So I went from Georgia to Azerbaijan and also Armenia. It's very easy to do that on the overnight train services. Georgia itself has got ancient cave cities, monasteries, and plenty of mountains. It has fantastic cuisine as well. I really enjoyed the food there. They also do their own wine, and they also have an alcoholic tipple called Char, I believe it is, which you need to try if you're there. So you've got the Black Sea coastal resort of Batumi, which is very different from what I expected traditional Georgia to be like. It's definitely worth visiting. To the winelands of Kakheti. So if you're looking for a budget destination that has culture, Georgia definitely has this. Number 10, Germany. Obviously known for its infamous nightlife, especially if you go to Berlin, where you've got super clubs and beer-swilling locals that you find in Munich. Germany is a really great country to visit. Berlin itself is a very vibrant capital. There's so much to do. You need at least a week there. Even just seeing all the museums takes days. So they've got funky street art, beach bars with sand. You'll never be short of anything to do in Berlin. And then venturing outside of the capital, there is the most beautiful castle that apparently Disney created his castle on after seeing this. It's called Neuschwanstein Castle, and it is Germany's very own Disney castle, basically. So you can cruise along the River Rhine, you can sample wine in the vineyards, or learn about, obviously, the harrowing history during the Second World War. If you only have time to go to one place in Germany, definitely make it Berlin. Number 11 is Greece. I absolutely love Greece. I lived in Athens for a month a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I absolutely fell in love with the Greek islands. There were so many to explore that it's going to take me a lifetime to go to every single island. But if, like me, you love beautiful islands, history and ancient temples, then you should definitely stick Greece on your solo bucket list. It comes with breathtaking islands, and each island kind of seemed a little bit unique and has something different to offer as well. It also has a very contemporary culture, and the country has something for everybody, whether you're into history, and obviously Greece is the place, as well as Egypt, for history and Greek civilizations. If you love beaches, they've got beaches. If you're a foodie, Greek food is amazing. Or a party goer, or maybe you're a mixture of all of them, then Greece is definitely a good destination for you. It's generally very safe for solo female travellers as well, and the locals that I've come across are very friendly and helpful. You can visit Athens for the Acropolis, which is absolutely spectacular, especially at night, and they have rooftop bars there. So you can have a look at the Acropolis lit up at night over a cocktail or two. Or you can just skip the mainland and head straight to the islands. I haven't personally been to Santorini, but I've heard it's meant to be the most beautiful of the islands. But if it's too romantic for one, and you're a bit worried about going there alone, then you can travel to Kos or Mykonos instead, where you're going to meet other travellers. If you do want to see as many islands as you can, then consider taking a sailing trip, which is not only perfect for island hopping, but it's also a fun way to meet like-minded others as well. So 3 destinations here I'd say are Athens, Santorini and Paros. I've personally visited all of the Saronic Islands as well, and I recommend a trip to Hydra, which is under 2 hours, I'd say, from Athens. That is one of the most gorgeous places I've ever been to. Number 12 is Israel. You may feel a little bit intrepid about going to Israel alone. I did when I went years ago, just because of what I heard about Israel on the news. I was so surprised by Israel. I actually found Israel to have really friendly locals. Nearly everybody speaks English, apart from Dubai. I'd say it's the other most cosmopolitan country in the Middle East. So you've got the modern city of Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which is the holiest place on earth, and it's such a fascinating country. You can visit the little town of Bethlehem or Jerusalem, which is obviously a mecca for pilgrims who come to see the many religious attractions and monuments. The city is 3,000 years old. You can also walk along the promenade from Tel Aviv to the old city of Jaffa, which is one of the oldest ports in the world. Or you can do what I did as well and head south to the coastal city of Eilat, just to sunbathe. That's a really lovely little kind of beach resort place. For hikers, there's the Masada Gorge, which is stunning, and you also can't miss the Dead Sea that Israel shares with Jordan. Also, Israel apparently has 300 days of sunshine a year, so if you're looking for somewhere that has history, culture, and a sea that you can float in, consider going to Israel. It's fine for solo female travellers. Number 13. A place that I have yet to go to is Japan. Japan has Mount Fuji for a start, which is the highest peak in the country. Apparently, this active volcano is not only an inspiration for many artists, but it's also a place of pilgrimage. And if you don't feel like hiking it, you can just see it from afar. Obviously, there's Tokyo as well, which is just meant to be amazing. And then there are also the islands in the Yaeyama archipelago and Ishigaki, which is Japan's premier beach destination, which has clear blue waters. You could also visit Hiroshima. I remember studying Hiroshima, which had the atomic bomb many years ago. You can actually go and see the city that's recovered from that. Or Kamakura, which is a seaside resort with a relaxed vibe and a huge bronze Buddha. Obviously, if you go to Japan, you've probably heard of the cherry blossom season. So if you do decide to go, then have a look when that's on. You might want to go and see that instead. But Japan is meant to be full of idyllic mountains and Zen temples, and obviously the crazy capital with a fast-paced way of life. Apparently Tokyo is where tall skyscrapers meet historic ancient temples and cat cafes. So if you are looking for ancient temples or traditional villages steeped in history, Japan could be a good option for you. Number 14 is Norway. One of my favourites because it's ridiculously safe for solo female travellers. I've spent months in Norway, and yes, it may be an expensive country to visit, but it's definitely got to be one of your bucket list destinations because it's a destination to watch the Northern Lights. It's also the place to cruise through stunning fjords, go whale watching, and learn more about Viking history. Personally spent a lot of time in Oslo. It's a great capital. There isn't, in my opinion, that much there to do. So if you do go to Norway, then it might be a good idea to stay in Oslo for a few days. Maybe you can then do island hopping from Oslo. Then you can either fly to Bergen or take the train. Bergen is really gorgeous. You need probably about a week there. I think you can actually do a fjord cruise from Bergen. And then you might want to fly to Tromsø in the Arctic Circle. I spent a birthday in Tromsø and I went and did reindeer feeding and I also saw the Northern Lights. It's amazing. Obviously, if you visit Norway in the summer, you're going to experience midnight sun, which means that the sun does not go down at night, so take a sleep mask. Or you might want to visit in the winter when there is a lack of sun, especially in Tromsø and higher in the north in the Arctic Circle. But that is when you can do husky sledging or see the Northern Lights. But Norway is one of the most spectacular countries I've been to for scenery. If you love nature, go to Norway. Number 15 is Poland. I wasn't too sure about putting Poland on the list for this year because of what is happening in Ukraine, but people are going to Poland, and Poland is a really lovely country to go to. First of all, it's very safe. It also has one of my favourite cities, which is Krakow. Krakow is just beautiful. I only spent a few nights there and I would love to go back and spend a bit longer there. Poland is a very budget destination and there's so much to see and do whether you are into history. There's also salt mines that you can explore where you can see crystal salt chandeliers and sculptures, which is fascinating. You can learn more about the history of Krakow in the historic Jewish corner, and they also have a really beautiful picturesque old town which is really safe to explore at night. It's got such a cosy feeling to it. You can see the royal castle in Warsaw. Warsaw's actually got a massive museum as well. Warsaw at Christmas time is really beautiful and I definitely recommend going there over Christmas time. And the museum is called Warsaw Rising Museum. Or you can learn more about the somber history of the largest concentration camp at Auschwitz. If you're into dark tourism or history, then Poland should definitely be on your list. You can also go skiing there in the winter too. Still got a few more to go because there are so many destinations that are great for solo female travellers for this year. So number 16 is Portugal. Portugal is fantastic. Really, really loved the country. Again, it's very budget friendly. I've visited there twice. Lisbon is the country's hilly capital and it's the great ideal starting place if you want to explore the country. You can see the medieval Tower of Berlin, the Moorish castle and the Geronimus Monastery. It's also great for just popping into little independent cafes and enjoying a local pastry and a coffee. Lagos is more for the nature lovers. It has colourful cliffs and natural wonders. There's also an amazing area called Douro, which is near Porto. I spent some time, a week in Porto, and then did a day trip up to Douro, which is known for its production of port wine. Porto itself has a historical centre and Baroque churches. You can also do trekking in areas such as the Monte Moro Hills, and you can have a look at prehistoric rock art in the Coa Valley, or you can just head south to the Algarve, which is more touristy, and there are a lot more expats there, and they have amazing spa treatments, so you can pamper yourself at a Falasso spa. Lisbon is also really good for digital nomads as well. And there's also an area near Lisbon called Cascais, which is great for surfers. Number 17 is Puerto Rico. I loved Puerto Rico so much. I spent 5 weeks there a few years ago. It's a gorgeous island in the Caribbean. It is part of the United States of America, but it's got a particular Spanish flair to it. It's kind of a fusion of Spanish and American, I'd say, and the fusion is definitely recognisable within the cuisine. The cuisine there is really lovely. Here is the place to go salsa dancing. They also have islands that I visited, one called Culebra and one called Vieques. You can spot wild horses on the island. You can kayak in a bioluminescent bay. It's one of the only places in the world where you can do this. Or you can just sunbathe on one of the world's best beaches. Puerto Rico is definitely a location if you love music, cuisine, and you like places that have a bit of a Latin flair. It's very good for solo female travellers. You just need to be a bit careful in the area called the Pearl, which is right by the sea, but the old town is really lovely to explore at night by yourself. Number 18 is Rwanda. I went to Rwanda last year, and with the rise in sustainable travel, one of my predictions for this year is that Rwanda is going to have more tourists. It's a country with a capital city that's even banned plastic bags. So it is very sustainable. The country itself does have a very tragic past with the Rwandan genocide that happened in 1994. It has been more than 20 years since the genocide. You can visit the Genocide Museum, and there is another museum as well that you can visit. Rwanda is extremely progressive if you think about what happened. It's overcoming its ethnic differences and it's really building a new identity. It's also very welcoming to travellers. You have minibuses that take you around the country. But if, like me, you prefer a more comfortable experience, then you can just hire a private tour guide, which I did for half of my stay there. I did the other half completely solo and independent. But then I booked a community-based tourism tour for a whole week to go around the country because I wanted to see community-based tourism. Rwanda is one of the best countries I've been to for that. What that actually means is you go and you pick honey with a beekeeper, or you make pottery with a local village. So it's just about getting in there with the locals and learning about their trades and traditions. One of the biggest reasons, though, that you might want to go to Rwanda, apart from all the nature and the wildlife, because you can actually do safaris there as well, you can see chimpanzees too, is the gorilla trekking. Rwanda has amazing gorilla trekking, same as its neighbour Uganda. Rwanda is the most expensive to get a permit. After doing it in Uganda, which is amazing, if you are in Rwanda, then you can obviously do it there as well. Number 19 is Scotland, another fantastic friendly place for solo travellers. Not only are the Scots friendly, but they are also surrounded by beautiful nature. Scotland just oozes traditions, and you don't have to be completely solo if you go here. I was solo for a bit, and then I joined a fun tour company that took me all around the country, stopping at whiskey factories and the Isle of Skye, which is beautiful. The scenery in the Highlands really is breathtaking. Scotland is definitely a place for culture, history, and fun. You've got the lochs, whiskey trails, plenty of kilts, and obviously the bagpipes. Number 20 is South Africa. I've put South Africa on the list because people always want to do safaris. And South Africa is known for the big five, but it doesn't mean that you have to go to South Africa alone, because it isn't obviously the most safest country in the world. But there are many companies offering safaris, and I do recommend, if you do want to do a safari, then South Africa obviously is like a bucket list destination. I have been there solo, and then I joined a camping tour. I did spend some time in QMV waterfront in Cape Town, and also took the cable car to the top of Table Mountain for amazing views. That part was all fine, and I did feel very safe. But if you want to feel more comfortable, then definitely take a tour. It's definitely one for the wine lovers as well. You've got the wine regions and the garden route, and obviously lots of tribes and safaris and nature. Nearly there. This list is pretty long for 2023. So number 21 is Spain. I lived in Spain for nearly 2 years. I visited very many areas there. There is so much to see in Spain. There are so many different places that you can visit. So you've got vibrant cities, all with obviously a Spanish flair, to traditional Spanish villages. It's known for its siestas and fiestas. Don't get them mixed up. Siesta is having a nap in the afternoon, and a fiesta is a party. And the locals do know how to have a good time. Same as in Colombia, it's like they've just got dancing and fun in their DNA. And the evenings are very long here, so it's quite an outdoor culture, so people do kind of hang around outside. The country is also most famously known for the Camino de Santiago, which is a series of pilgrim routes which stretch from France to Portugal. There are endless festivals in Spain. You've got Valencia, which has the Falles Festival. And also, if you do visit Valencia, you have to go for its famous paella, which I think is made with rabbit in Valencia. It wasn't one that I tried. But it's also got its futuristic science buildings. You can visit Madrid for culture, Granada for the stunning Alhambra, which is stunning, or the white towns of Andalusia. People do speak a little bit of English in Spain. If you're in the tourism industry, then you can find people that speak English. Otherwise, you might need to know a little bit of Spanish if you're venturing off into local villages. So whether you want to throw tomatoes at strangers in one of the festivals, and yes, that is a thing, sample carver in a vineyard, or do the pilgrimage, then Spain is a fantastic country to visit. Number 22, Sri Lanka is back after a period of instability. Having actually got married in Sri Lanka more than a decade ago, I'm so happy that it's now back on the tourism radar. This country does rely a lot on tourism, and if you've ever been on the fence about visiting here, then I just want to tell you, just go. It really has a lot to offer. You've got beautiful beaches, traditional fishermen that you see on the stilts, you might have seen pictures of them. You've also got the Temple of Tooth in Kandy, and they're just some of its attractions. It's a Buddhist culture, that's what I really loved about it. And it's also big in elephants. So you can see elephants if you go to Sri Lanka. It also has 3,000 or so years of history. There are 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, a giant rock that I've climbed called Sigiriya Rock, which is a really good experience to do. So Sri Lanka kind of promises Asian mystery, Buddhist culture and timeless history. If you are feeling a bit apprehensive about travelling alone, I wouldn't put Sri Lanka down as a destination for a first-time solo, but you might want to consider a group tour there instead. Number 23 is Switzerland, same as Norway. Even though they are more expensive than some of the other countries, you just cannot beat these countries for scenery, especially Switzerland. You can take the train to the top of Europe for snowy peaks, relax around one of the many lakes, or just go chocolate shopping in Zurich. And if I had to sum up Switzerland in one word, it would just be stunning. Been there a couple of times. I went a few years ago in August. I went to Zurich for the Zurich Street Parade, which is a massive dance festival. You can also see the former residence of Albert Einstein. Lucerne is one of the most beautiful places here, and they have a statue or monument called Dying Lion of Lucerne. You can take the panoramic gondola up Mount Pilatus. You can go bungee jumping, hang gliding in Interlaken, which is more for adventure seekers, or you can just explore the mountains and the lakes. And if you do visit Lauterbrunnen, which I stayed in for a few nights, it's got so many waterfalls. If you do go to Switzerland, make sure to try a fondue, which is one of the things that Switzerland is known for. 24 is Thailand, and yes, Thailand is on the list again. I don't think that this Buddhist country will ever not be good for solos. If you've never travelled solo before, then Thailand should definitely be on one of your first destinations. The people are incredibly friendly. It is called the Land of the Smiles. That gives you a bit of a clue. And there are so many people travelling there, so many solo female travellers there, following the same routes that you'll be looking for those hidden gems to try and escape the crowds. It's so easy to meet people. The capital, however, it is one of Asia's most exciting cities. It's also a bit of a culture shock, I think, because it's huge and it's a very sprawling city. Koh Sang Road is the place to go if you're backpacking here and you want to meet others. But the reason that you go to Thailand are for beaches, and the beaches are every single cliche under the sun. And there are so many to choose from, especially along the Andaman coast. But Thailand's real magic kind of lies in its Buddhist culture and stunning temples. You've got dreamy beaches. If you head to the north to Chiang Mai, you've got elephant trekking and you can go and stay with hill tribes. It's very cultural. Or you can head to the hedonistic south. Thailand is definitely the place for whatever you need it to be, whether that's culture, partying, sunbathing. My final destination on the list, drumroll please, is Uzbekistan at number 25. These are in no particular order, by the way. They're just in alphabetical order, not in order of preference and what I recommend. I visited Uzbekistan a few years ago, and it seems as though people have a newfound interest in the ancient Silk Road. If you're one of them that has an interest in that, then Uzbekistan is definitely a destination for you to travel to. Out of all the stands, it has a good tourism infrastructure. So there are high-speed trains along some of the routes. There are hotels in the UNESCO World Heritage Cities. And it's pretty cheap as well. I cannot tell you that feeling of standing in front of one of those enormous mausoleums for the first time. It's just awe-inspiring. It's definitely got more tourism infrastructure than its neighbours, such as Tajikistan or Kazakhstan. So if you do want to travel to the Central Asia region and you're unsure, Uzbekistan is a very good starting point. Tour guides speak English there. The old city of Bukhara really feels like you've stepped back in time and onto a movie set. It's just stunning and beautiful. And when I went at the time, it was really easy to enter the country on an e-visa, making it more accessible. The most famous monument in the country here is Registan, which is in Samarkand, but there are plenty more impressive monuments in the country. You've got the Tomb of the Living King, you can see the Ark, which is the country's oldest structure, the Kalen minarets, you can visit a silk factory in the west, or if you make it to Khiva, then you should definitely see the palace. Uzbekistan promises ancient history, mausoleums, and of course the Silk Road. If you like architecture, history, and maybe spirituality, then it's a relatively easy country to explore independently too. I also want to add to this list because I recently went to the Destinations Travel Show and I listened to a few talks and they were talking about the trends for this year. These aren't trends for solo female travellers, these are just trends for places to travel to in 2023. So I just want to include these at the end because they might give you some ideas of where else you might want to go. Antarctica is a big one. Obviously, this is a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list destination. So Antarctica might be on your list for this year. Greenland, with the theme of polar travel, Greenland's actually meant to be more popular this year. Never been to Greenland, mainly because it seems very expensive to travel to. There are a lot of winter activities that you can do here, and it does seem like you need to pay for those kind of activities. So to me, it does seem like quite an expensive destination, but definitely one that I would like to visit at some point. Vietnam is also meant to be growing in popularity this year. A lot of people are travelling to Vietnam. There's also Albania in Europe, in the Balkans, which I absolutely love. And Macedonia as well, that I've also been to, and that is also a very good country to travel to. Japan is also on their list, as well as Sri Lanka. So I hope that I've given you some inspiration, and maybe some of these destinations are already on your travel wish list. If they're not, I hope that they now are. If you do want more information on the majority of these destinations, then you can also just check out the Girl About the Globe website because I have separate solo destination guides. There's also an article, so you don't have to write down everything that I said in this podcast episode, on travel destinations for solos in 2023. And I'm wishing you an amazing start of 2023, even though it is March, I'm a bit late. And I will see you next Monday.
Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.